Okay, guys. So I am gonna take a few moments to talk about my reactions to Love Is Blind on Netflix. Now, I do want to say that if you have not watched all of the episodes of Love Is Blind, then there are going to be total spoilers in this video. Okay? So stop watching now if you haven't watched all of the episodes. All right, so let's talk for a minute about the elephant in the room, right? Jessica and Mark. So Jessica and Mark is just so embarrassing. I mean, it's totally cringeworthy. It's just a whole mess there. And I will say this. So Jessica in the reunion said that she was honest with Mark from the very beginning. And she was. She was very honest with Mark about the fact that she had a problem with the fact that he was younger than her, right? I think she also mentioned in the series that she also had a problem with the fact that he was shorter than a lot of the guys that she normally dates. But from the beginning, I mean, Mark was all about her. Like he was, like she was the one. As soon as she said that she could make Italian beef, that was it for him, right? He just felt like they had so much in common that he was just, this is the woman for him. So then when Jessica and Barnett had their little moment in the pods, and can I just say that I feel like the world as a whole did a collective, like, cringe, when Barnett said what he said to Jessica. He said something along the lines of, if there were no other women or men here, then I would go ahead and propose tomorrow. Which to me sounded a little bit like if you were the last person on earth, I would go ahead and propose tomorrow. Like, not today, no, tomorrow. And and then Jessica got on that whole confessional. Y'all, she got in a whole ass confessional and said that in my 34 years of being alive, no one has ever loved me enough to say those words. And I was like, ho, no, you still haven't found somebody that would say those words to you, because he didn't say those words to you. He literally said, basically, like, if you were the last person on earth, he would still wait until tomorrow to propose. Like, it did make sense to me. But, and it seemed like, it almost seemed like I had missed something, because like no one else like caught that symbolism there, and so like nobody else talked about the fact that he was like, if there was nobody else here. So, and Barnett expressed regret about it later. And he was talking about, like, I never should have said it, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't know what I wanted. Whatever. So then Jessica goes back to Mark, and says, what she said. She was basically like, it's you, it's been you this entire time. And I fully expected Mark to come back and be like, no, that's not who I am. I don't play second fiddle. I'm just gonna leave the show, right? And he did say, I don't play second fiddle, which surprised me because then after saying I don't play second fiddle, he literally went in to play second fiddle with that whole relationship with her. So it was just really embarrassing on like Mark's part to see all of that like take place, and I'm actually shocked that um he didn't have anything more to say about that than he did at the reunion, you know? Um and so Jessica at the reunion was talking about how watching, like going back over, you know, the episodes and watching herself like go through that process. She was talking about how it was like really cringeworthy, and I was sitting there like watching the reunion, and I was like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. You're right. It is cringeworthy. It's really cringeworthy. And then she like blamed it on, you know, the alcohol and everything, and started talking about like I was served whiskey. Um, well, you're right. You were served whiskey, but you made a choice to drink it, and so you know, like that doesn't alleviate you of all consequences, you know, of your actions while drinking, right? And so, um, it was just, it was very, I literally cringed the entire time, y'all. Like, um, I don't get wrapped up in reality TV. Like, that's not who I am as a person, but it was really interesting because it was just like watching a train wreck. It was literally, mm, it was that bad. So, so then I thought that I'm sorry, not Damien, Carlton and Diamond was super embarrassing as well because I felt like Carlton was just on there trying to get his little piece of fame, right? I don't believe that that Carlton is bisexual. I don't believe that Carlton is sexually fluid like that. I do believe that he's gay. And I'm not trying to speak anybody else's truth because I can't, obviously. I can only speak what my personal experience has been. And based on my personal experience, knowing like what it's like to be gay and knowing like having my own little gaydar and everything, I feel like he is gay and just isn't willing to come out and say that completely, right? I do feel like Diamond was on there trying to find someone to love, but I feel like I feel like Carlton felt like this was his moment to be in the spotlight and have his own little personal 15 minutes of fame. So then when they were like the entire thing was just very forced, the relationship in the pods, the relationship after the pods, like after they got engaged, it was very forced. And it just kind of, he when he was sitting there, they were sitting at the table in Mexico in the hotel room, and you know, Diamond was doing the confessionals, and she was talking about like how Carlton had this different energy, and he wasn't the person that he was in the pods. And I'm like, well, yeah, because now it's like real. It's like, you know, he's realized that this isn't who he is, and he kept talking about like how now he's gonna have to tell her who he is and stuff. And so then he like whipped around that hat and started talking about I'm daddy, and I giggled. I giggled so hard because I was like, mm, 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 you know. And so it just kind of, the entire thing seemed odd to me. And then whenever they were out by the pool, um, and Carlton called Diamond a bitch, called her out of her name, um, and like, he shouldn't have done it. He should not have done it. He should have realized that if you are going to have these types of conversations, and if you are going to, like, allow yourself to get to this point in a relationship where you feel comfortable having these types of conversations, then you need to feel comfortable enough to allow other people to express themselves, right? And Diamond had an excellent point. She said, I feel like you didn't tell me because you wanted to deceive me into loving you, right? And she's absolutely correct. And that goes back to what I'm saying about he's gay and he just wanted his 15 minutes of fame, and he waited until he could get to Mexico when they were on this trip, and he started realizing, actually, this isn't right. I'm gonna have to have that conversation, right? So then, the other thing that I didn't like about Diamond and Carlton is, now I don't think that Diamond is homophobic. Like, I don't think that at all. I think she was in her feelings about the entire thing, and she had every right to be. But when she was walking away, they had gotten into the fight. He had thrown the ring into the pool, right? And she gets up to leave. And this was after he had called her out of her name. Um, and uh, she got up to leave, and she said something about, watch my ass all the way to the next stick, which I thought was very not cool, is the only words I can come up with, like, outside of a little bit homophobic. And like I said, I don't think that Diamond is homophobic. Do not, please do not feel like that's what I'm trying to say. Because I don't. I think that she was in her feelings, like I said. But it's one of those little nasty side comments that we in the gay community have to put up with, like, every day, and it hit me the wrong way, and I was like, no, ma'am, that's not how we act. That's not how we do. That's not cool. Um, but the entire thing was just, it was not something that I felt was true and, like, genuine. I felt like, on Carlton's part, Diamond, I felt like she was there for love, but Carlton, I really truly felt like he was just there for his 15 minutes of fame. And I'm actually really glad that it burned out when it did, because I really did not. I didn't like Carlton. I liked Diamond, but I didn't like Carlton. And I'm really actually glad that it burned out when it did, because I didn't want to have to spend the entire series, like, watching them. Um, I really wish that Diamond had found somebody else. I think that Diamond deserved love. And I think that had she gone with somebody else, like, it would have been different. And it would have been actually really enjoyable to watch. I think that she has a lot of opinions, which I really like about her, and she's very independent. She's not going to let some man, like, tell her, like, how to be and how to live her life and stuff. And so I really thought that she should have matched up with somebody else, and it would have been really interesting to watch, like, them get to know each other and go to the altar or whatever. But it didn't happen. So then on to uh Kenny and Kelly. Okay. So Kenny and Kelly, um, I was embarrassed by all of that too, because Kenny Kenny was just this generally nice guy, very diplomatic, and he allowed he allowed Kelly to basically lead him on all the way to the altar. Um, and I just it hurt my soul. Like it hurt my soul, y'all. Because it bothered me that Kelly did him that way, you know, and she just kept telling him, you know, the physical connection just isn't there yet, but we'll get there, you know, blah blah blah. I feel like Kelly just wanted her 15 minutes of fame too. Like I don't think that she was in it to find love. I think that I really do think that she was just in it for her 15 minutes of fame. Otherwise, she wouldn't have waited till they got to the altar to say I don't, you know. And the same with Jessica. I feel like Jessica literally waited to the altar so that her 15 minutes of fame could last as long as it possibly could. The unfortunate side effect of that is that now the entire world hates Jessica. And it really, I feel like, is probably going to last a really long time. Like, I feel like people probably have sent her, you know, nasty stuff. You know, and so it's really disappointing that she didn't cut it when she could have, you know. If she would have left, I feel like if she would have left before the altar, I feel like people would have respected that, and said, you know, well, at least she cut it off when she did, right? But she didn't. She waited till the altar, and a lot of people got hurt by that, including her family and friends, including Mark, you know, whatever. So Kelly, the same. I feel like she did it because she just wanted her 15 minutes of fame, and she could have cut it off before. And she led that man on all the way to the altar. She told him that, you know, the physical connection just wasn't there, but that they were gonna get there, right? And Kenny, being the nice guy that he really is, like he believed her, and he waited until, you know, they were and until they were at the altar and everything to have sex. And what struck me is literally like even Jessica and Mark had sex. Like they ended up having sex before reaching the altar. And so I feel like, and again, not trying to live anybody else's truth, but I feel like if this person is telling you that the physical connection is just not there, then it's just then maybe you need to, you know, reassess and like sit down and by yourself. Like don't sit down with the other person. Like sit down by yourself and like really think about like the choices that you're making and think about the fact that you're about to commit yourself, you know, heart and soul to this person that isn't even sure if they're sexually attracted to you. You know, you're really like truly putting yourself in a situation where you could be in a sexless marriage for the rest of your life. You know, obviously, like that's not something that you want to do, right? So, and I'm not saying like I am by no means saying that people that wait until marriage to have sex is a bad thing. I don't think that at all. But this is not and Kelly was not somebody who was waiting for marriage to have sex. She had had sex before, and so having sex was not a big thing for her. But it turned out to be a big thing between her and Kenny, because she even said in one of the confessionals that Kenny was not somebody that she would typically date because he was blonde, and so it seemed like the fact that she waited till the altar to say I don't. She just wanted her 15 minutes of fame, and I felt a little bit bad for Kelly, um, and I do feel like even though I've just sat here and said that I think she just wanted her 15 minutes of fame, and I do, but I also feel like I feel like her friends and family pressured her into going to the altar a little bit, because you know even her sister like at the wedding was like, you've got to think about like the caliber of this man, like he's better than any man you've ever brought home, right? And I just felt a little bit bad for Kelly. I felt a little bit like she was pressured, and even Kelly's friends, literally, like when they were at the bachelor party, like they cornered her and was like, "You pick shitty men. You don't have any kind of picker. Your picker's broken. We have to rescue you from every relationship you've ever had." And I thought that was really bitchy of her friends to say, like it may be true, but you ain't gotta like abuse that woman like that. You're her friends. Like you're supposed to be there for her. And the fact that you're talking to your friend this way is just really it bothered me. It really bothered me. And so I do feel like a little bit that she was pressured to take it to the altar. But I still think that I think that she knew what her decision was before she even got to the altar. And I think the reason that she went to the altar was because she wanted her 15 minutes of fame to last as long as it did. Um, so then at the wedding, when Kenny and Kelly were up at the altar, and Kelly has just said, "I don't," right? And Kenny turns around and addresses everybody after Kelly has left, and he's like, so diplomatic and so gracious. I mean, just the epitome of graciousness. And says, "I've cherished every moment of this process, and I'm so glad that you guys got to be here with me through it, blah, blah, blah." And Kelly, like, almost gets a little bit roasted by her own mother. And her mother is like, "I love this man." And I giggled. Y'all. I giggled like crazy because I was like, even your own mother um is wanting you to marry this man, and you're just like, "No, no, I'm good," you know? And so, sorry, I gotta turn my oven off. My food's been cooking. So then, it really seemed to me that her family really loved Kenny. Everybody loved Kenny because, I mean, let's be honest, Kenny was amazing. He was gorgeous. He was very diplomatic. And even Vanessa Lachey at the reunion was like, "Kenny for president," you know. But how many of y'all thought that now, it may be true because I haven't followed Kenny on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or anything, but how many of y'all felt like the relationship that he talked about in the reunion was fake? I kind of got the feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, like don't be nasty about it because I don't know. Like I'm truly asking for feedback here, but I just felt like it was fake. And I felt like it was said at the reunion to make Kelly feel like she was I felt like it was said at the reunion because he wanted Kelly to know that he was okay, right? And that he didn't need her and all this other stuff. And I understand that sentiment. Like I completely understand. Like, bitch, she left you at the altar. Like, you go get your revenge story and whatever. But I probably I probably am wrong, and I hope that I am, and I don't want to think that way about Kenny. But it felt like, because he wouldn't give any specifics of the relationship. He just talked about how great it was going and how the things that he had learned from his relationship with Kelly, and the entire process of going into the pods. He talked about like how he had learned from that and how he was applying it to this new relationship, right? So then the other couple that I really thought it really bothered me was Amber and Barnett. So Barnett was the fuck boy. Let's be honest here. Barnett was the fuckboy. Um, and so whenever Jessica and Barnett, do you guys remember when Jessica and Barnett had their little moment where they got into the fight in the pods, and Jessica was like, "I'm leaving. I can't believe you're doing this," you know. So so then she went to Amber and and talked to her the way that she did. And it shocked me that she did that because she went to Amber and she was like, he's just a fuck boy. He doesn't know what he wants, you know, blah, 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 blah. He told me he would propose and then he broke up with me. Whatever. And it shocked me because what a what a shitty thing to do. You know, like if it doesn't work out for you, this isn't a competition. It's not, you know, like if I can't have him, nobody can. You know, you had Mark. You already knew that you had Mark. You had already gone back to Mark. And so all you had to do was just let sleeping dogs lie. Just don't even bring it up, you know? And so then she talked to Amber the way that she did, and I felt like that was a really bitchy move. I really did, because just let it go. Just let it go. But she didn't. So I feel like from that point forward, and Amber had been very open about Barnett was the only one that she wanted. And from the very beginning, she'd been very open about that. Her and Jessica had talked about how much she really liked Barnett. And so it just seems that was a really shitty thing to do. But then whenever Amber and Barnett got together, I didn't like Barnett from the very beginning. I didn't like him. I thought that he was very he was a player. And but I did think that whenever him and Amber got together, that they were really the best couple for each other, because it seems to me that they're going to be the ones that make it. If anybody is going to make it, I felt like it was going to be them, because they just remind me of like your stereotypical like Southern couple. Like you know, there's literally 100 of Amber and Barnett's here in the South, and that's just kind of it's kind of a thing. And so I felt like out of everybody, I felt like they were really and truly just a really nice couple, and they deserved each other, right? And I'm not saying deserved each other to be negative. I just feel like they deserved each other, and I feel like they can make it work. And they came to the reunion and talked about how they had to learn how to talk to each other and work through things. And I thought that was really interesting to hear them talk about, you know, how Amber had almost wanted to get a divorce. She was like about to call a divorce attorney, um, and so I think that's important. I think that's important in a relationship, to be able to know how to communicate, right? So I really think that I think them being together is a really good thing. And then Damien and G, I really love Damien. I think Damien is just this really nice guy, that is just trying his best. He's so poetic and so sensitive, and he's just this person that really and truly is um, just willing to love and be loved, right? Um, which is so hard to find. It's so hard to find someone that, if they are willing to be loved, they're actually willing to love, or show that love, right? And he literally, in the pods, just he cried during the proposal and said, you know, I'm your gift, and I give myself wholly and completely, right? Here, take a piece of me, whatever. So G proposing to him felt fake. I just felt like that whole thing felt fake. And she said in the reunion that it was not planned, but um I don't know, it felt so forced to me. And you guys can talk about it with me and tell me your thoughts and everything, but I just felt like it was very very fake. Um but someone actually well, let me first say that I felt like Damien's I don't at the altar, out of everybody's I don't at the altar, was the most organic because he said I don't to her, and he had very good reasons to. He said, you've been hot and cold this entire time. I never know where I stand with you. Do you love me or don't you? Blah blah blah. um and it was a thing that made sense to me because she started picking fights from the very beginning, like once they like while they were on the boat. They were laying on the boat, and he said something about I really enjoy this escape from reality, and she went in, and I was like, oh my god, what's wrong with this bitch, right? But she was open and honest from the very beginning about the fact that she self sabotages every single relationship she's ever had. And so he kind of went into it knowing that she does this all the time. And that was something that had been brought up over several fights during the series, was that she self sabotages all the time. And that he felt like that she was doing this, right? And he told her, he said, listen, things have got to change. And if they don't, you're going to lose me. And someone actually brought it up to me, and I thought it was really interesting. My friend Renee actually brought it up to me and said that um, he said no at the altar um, because she was in that day, but she had been out like almost every other day, and he didn't know where he stood with her. But what's interesting, and what they pointed out, what Renee pointed out to me, was that he had told her that if she didn't change, then he was out. And the moment that she did change and was in, he noped the fuck out, right? And I had not thought of that perspective before, and I thought that was actually a really interesting perspective. And it makes a lot of sense. But I feel like the fact that I, I I felt like the fact that they kept it going even after the series was over really was sweet, and I thought that their apologies to each other and their family and friends at the reunion was very sincere. I thought it was really nice of them to do that, and I feel like they're building a foundation right now for a beautiful relationship that they can have going forward. Um, Lauren Lauren and Cameron, let's be honest, they were the only reason why we watched the entire series to the end, was to see if they would tie the knot. I freaking love Cameron. He's just your all around general nice guy, um, boy next door type person that he'll change your tire for you, and then make sure that you've got gas to get where you need to go, right? And I thought he was very sweet, and I love the fact that he fell in love so wholly and completely and so quickly, and was just sure about it the entire time. And he never wavered, never once was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. Whereas Lauren, it really bothered me. And y'all, don't get me wrong, I understand it. I understand that interracial couples today, even in 2020, still have little nasty side comments from people that they have to deal with. And I completely understand that Papa Speed, her father, was, you know, he was very all about, as she put it, the black family structure. Um, but I feel like she got so in her head about it. And in the pods, like, she was all about it. She was all about Cameron, and she even said, like, you're my favorite one out of everybody, you know. Um, and then as soon as they met in the meeting room, she changed, and she got so in her head about him being white and her being black, that she just couldn't even enjoy the process. And her composure, her facial expressions, you know, the way she reacted to everything that he said, it just all showcased like that uncomfortableness, with him being white and her being black. But it was really sweet to see them at the reunion. You could tell that she had just gotten out of her head about it, and that they were so comfortable with each other, and they were in their element. They were so in love. And I actually Facebook stalked them a little bit, after watching the reunion, and the pictures of them are just so nice. They look so in love, and they're so sweet together. And I really am rooting for them. Um, I, I think I want to wrap this up, but I do want to give a big shout out to Nick and Vanessa Lachey. I think they did a fantastic job of actually like guiding the experiment and making sure that everything went smoothly. They did an excellent job hosting the reunion, and being interviewers for that. And I think that my biggest takeaway from this is going to be that, if you are going to get on TV and act cringy like Jessica did, then maybe you should just stay home. You know, just stay home. Just stay home. All right, love you guys. Leave me some feedback in the comments, about your thoughts about the video, about the show. Definitely let me know what you think.